People just think about what's different about me too much, and they need to just think about more about what makes me a regular human being in this world.
That's 10-year-old Maya Stanton, who identifies as a girl and spoke to the Texas legislature about who she is and why her parents shouldn't be criminalized if they decide to help her medically transition. Texas is one of many states this spring taking up this type of legislation, something the organization Human Rights Campaign says is a disturbing trend. Here this morning to talk about it is Catherine Oakley, Senior Counsel and State Legislative Director for Human Rights Campaign. Good morning to you, Catherine. First of all, for those viewers who may not know, what is the Human Rights Campaign organization?
The Human Rights Campaign is the nation's largest organization working for LGBTQ equality. That's equality for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people across the country.
And why is there such a disturbing trend? Now, your organization calls this a disturbing trend across the United States, where this kind of legislation that Maya Stanton was talking about is happening across the country. How so?
Yeah, unfortunately, we are seeing an absolute onslaught of anti-LGBTQ legislation this year. This year has been historic with the largest amount of anti-LGBTQ legislation ever filed in modern history. In modern history in the last several years. And we've also had a record number of anti-transgender bills introduced, as well as, unfortunately, we have a record number of anti-LGBTQ laws, now 23, that have passed into law this year across the country.
So what do we think is behind this uptick? And why the commonality among these state legislatures across the country?
Yeah, well, the two kinds of bills that we're seeing introduced more often than any others are bills that would restrict the ability of trans youth to be able to play sports consistent with their gender identity, and bills like the one that Maya was referencing that would forbid trans youth from being able to access gender-affirming, age-appropriate, medically necessary health care, which in many cases for transgender youth can be life-saving. It is not a coincidence that we are seeing this legislation filed all around the country. This is a part of a coordinated effort by opponents of LGBTQ equality to spread misinformation and try to stoke fear, particularly in this case around trans youth. There have been trans girls participating in girls' sports in 16 states around the country for many years, also competing at the collegiate level and professional level, and girls participating transgender girls participating in girls' sports has never, ever posed a problem in any of those places. And similarly, there is no problem whatsoever with trans youth being offered anything other than best practice, science-based care. And so both of these types of bills are all about falsely pushing a narrative that transgender youth are in some way faking who they are, and that they're doing that for some advantage, or in sports perhaps, or are being forced to do that by their doctors and their parents. And it's absolutely not true. And these are just being pushed by the same folks who pushed the bathroom bills a few years ago, and before that, all kinds of exemptions to marriage equality.
We've seen trends like this through the years. Many years ago, one would say, gay marriage, come on, that's never going to be legalized. And over the years, there's been an evolution, and those things have changed. Now, after years of protests and lawsuits and gradual acceptance in culture, the transgender conversation seems to be where the gay conversation was years ago. Is that a fair comparison?
I think it is absolutely a fair comparison, and we are seeing the same folks who are on the other side of the issue as well. They've just evolved over time as the arguments that they've made have continued to be disproven.
So what do you do what kind of tools are you using in your organization to try to reverse what's already happened and maybe what's currently happening in some of the states?
Well, we work with our partners all across the country to fight back in state legislatures and make sure that legislators understand that the information they're being given about these bills is simply not true. We're opposing very strongly SB 29 right now in Texas, the bill that would ban trans youth from being able to play sports consistent with their gender identity. And we're also, of course, opposing the other bills that have also been moving through the legislature, which may at this point, given where we are in the legislature, they may or may not come to fruition, but including the bill that Maya was talking about that would prevent trans youth from being able to access medical care.
If someone wants to,
bills across the country.
If someone wants to find out more about your efforts and more about what you say are the truths behind these things, where can they find you?
They can find us at hrc.org.
Good deal. We want to make sure we'll have that on our website as well. Captain Oakley, thank you for joining us, and we'll keep us updated on your efforts. And we look forward to talking to you again down the road, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Just ahead, we're going to talk about time to commemorate the Texas Rangers here. The 200-year commemoration of this storied branch of state policing in Texas may seem far away, but 2023 will be here before you know it. We talk to the chair of that commemoration when Houston Newsmakers continues.